Hi, Bobby. How you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for joining us today for
Thanks.
our little louder than war chat. How's it going?
Yeah,
How
I
things?
mean, I can't complain to be quite honest. It's been my attitude for the whole year. So I can't
Yeah,
complain
yeah,
because I think the current situation, COVID, has put a lot of things into perspective, and I think there are a lot of people out there that are on the front lines, and they're really going through it. So for me, I can't complain.
yeah, yeah. And okay, so you've been voted by the writers at Louder Than War, not only as the #2 album of the year for We Live Here, but also the #1 track of the year. How does that feel? I mean, that's something else, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's never what 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 we do it for, but it's always great to know that it's being appreciated, um, especially as we can see it being appreciated on the ground level by people that like that are not writers and not in the industry in any sort of way, and you see them interact with it and on social media, and they're sharing it, they're sharing the song and the video and the album, and there's discussion and there's engagement that we can have with them, but when it gets to kind of like writers, journalists of different mediums and medias, and when it gets a little, it starts to get into that industry world a little bit
Yeah,
more, it's
yeah,
it's great to know that it's being appreciated,
yeah.
by those people as well, which is yeah, it's great, never
And
what you do it for, but it's great for it to be
yeah,
appreciated.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there were 37 writers, and obviously we've been following your sort of progression almost from the very beginning. And John Robb did an interview with you. Um,
Yeah.
why do you think the track in particular, We Live Here, is so special? Is it the clash of cultures? Is it the clash between grime and punk that makes that track so incendiary? I mean, it's a powerful, powerful track.
Yeah, I think it's an amalgamation of things, really. I think the clash of cultures that you describe, I think that's part of it, with it being like it's so it's punk music, right? But it's
Yeah,
done in a kind of different way. Obviously, we'll never know if somebody that looked more like you was to sing this song,
exactly.
if they would say that it's got any rap or grime elements to it. We'll never
Yeah,
know that, right?
yeah,
I always see We Live Here as quite a straightforward punk song. I don't know that the vocals are delivered much different to, say, how Steve Ignorant would maybe deliver
yeah.
some lyrics way
Mm,
back,
yeah,
but we'll never know. But I do think that a great deal of its, let's say, success or popularity comes from the fact that there is this genre of music that a lot of people love, punk music,
yeah,
and it has been sat so stagnant for so long,
yeah,
and it's been, the same, let's say, heritage acts
yeah.
and heritage bands that have been, carrying on. They've been carrying that flame for a long time. They've been
And
carrying that.
being resurrected as well because they've
Yeah,
heard some young bands doing it. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. And I think that's it. Um, I think people have seen that, oh, punk is not necessarily dead. It's just looks a little different at the moment. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
And I think because a lot of the punk music that is out at the moment, or in the popular realm, is not necessarily political or um, social commentary. So there are some people that don't see that as punk music. They see it as like pop music or indie music or
Yeah.
just rock music or whatever it is. And I think there's a community of people in the punk subculture that see punk music as it's very, to its very core, it's political, it's socially engaged, it's, you know, it's for the cause, whatever that cause may be. And I think with a song like We Live Here, which is so obviously, you know, obviously political and is an obvious social commentary, there is no hiding it, you know. I think that people have, I think that audience in particular is in, oh, there's someone still saying something, there's someone still pissing people off.
Does it kind of get to you when you go to, and I don't know if you have, but you look at a band like Idols, that there are too few black kids appreciating that type of music?
What do you mean? It's like,
so I go to a Blinders gig or an Idols gig or whatever, and there are very few black kids in the audience. Why do you think that is? Do you think it's coming, or do you think your direction is going to explode in that it's a, you know, the clash of cultures is going to get those kids appreciating that type of, a new type of sort of, you know, chimera, a new style of music that clashes these two cultures together? Because it's very much, grime is a sort of a black kids genre, punk is very much a white kids genre. Why aren't they meeting in the middle and going to each other's gigs? And that's my question, really, you know?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of nuances in the relationship between genres and the cultures that attach themselves to those genres. But I think maybe part of it, and I don't know, but maybe part of it could be because I've been to an Idols gigs and a gig, and you're right, there is like, I've felt, but this is not something new to me. Like I often feel, you know, when I go to these kind of gigs, like rock gigs, punk gigs, I often feel
that you stand out.
Yeah, of course. I'm, like, you know, I'm one of a few black people there, and the hair as well. You know, it's
pretty distinctive, isn't it?
It's one of those things, isn't it? There's not too many locks people in there, but I think maybe it might just be that the music doesn't speak to. Maybe the music just doesn't speak to that culture. Do you know what I mean? Maybe it's maybe the approach just doesn't speak to that culture, which is, you know, something that we are obviously, we're not trying to do it as in like consciously trying to, you know, appeal to like a black audience, but I think naturally, because we have grown up around black culture and we are of color, we are black. Do you know what I mean? Ourselves, we. Naturally that's the experiences that we're going to talk about, and it's like, it's everything, it's down to the very, again, like the nuances of living in this, you know, this skin color. It's like it kind of impacts everything to a certain degree, because it's, you know, of course people see color, right? And so I feel like maybe that's it. Maybe, like, you know, not to say any band in particular, but maybe those bands just don't, it just doesn't appeal to the black audience in the same way that grime music appeals to them and talks about their struggle and you know, their culture, you know.
And how do your peers react to you sort of clashing these two cultures together? Do your mates of colour react in a positive way to what you're doing, or do they feel that you've sold out to the, you know, a different style of counterculture that maybe you shouldn't?
No, because I think that on ground level, when you look at youth culture, I think what you'll find is that it's already very, very mixed. So there are people that, like, the if you just take the music, for instance, the music types, the genres that are being listened to by youth, like, you know, people that are, you know, actively seeking out new music and stuff, I think it's very varied. Like, you have people that do go to again, we'll go to an Idols gig. Like, I'm not a unicorn in that sense, right? It's like I'll go to an Idols gig, but I might also go to an Eskimo dance, which is like a grime rave, right? And you find that I think you find that quite a lot, especially now with so much music being available at people's fingertips.
I think you can find anything, right?
Yeah, and as well, especially with like, you know, playlist kind of, let's say, culture, where like people are not necessarily experiencing whole albums and whole records. They're just kind of playlisting based off of mood, which is a new thing, right? Because it's not playlisting based off of a genre, which is keeping you in this box. It's playlist energetic, whatever. Do you know what I mean? It's the gym playlist, and you hear, you know, maybe a punk rock song next to a grime song next to you know what I mean? So I think there is, I think maybe there is and not to speak to your age, but I think there is maybe an assumption by some older people that that youth cultures are still very much what they were, of like, we're teddy boys, we're punks, and I mean, whereas now I think
you see much more harmony, much more crossover.
For sure. Like, and even with the sense of style, I think it's very, you know, it's very, people are just mixing and matching and taking this from this.
But it still goes back to my question that when you go to an Idols gig, there are very, very few people of color in the audience, and that suggests to me there is still like a polarity that exists at ground level.
I think that is maybe just the lack of that music possibly speaking to that. Our music is harsher. Our music is not, it's not passive. It's not holding hands and singing. It is balling them fists up and those hands up and swinging. We're not singing, we're swinging. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it is. Because again, we don't have the luxury to hold hands and sing our troubles away. We have to fight those troubles. You know what I mean? Like, we have to fight. You know what I mean? So, and again, and that kind of just that, if we just look at that, that is maybe the difference. That is maybe why you're not finding that audience of color in certain shows, because it just, we don't necessarily want to hear. Like, you know,
I mean, I find it fascinating when you clash cultures together. You know, Slow Tie did Doorman, and not an equally incendiary track, but an amazing kind of crossover track that sort of combined grime with sort of, I don't know, it was punky, it was dancey, and it really hit the mark as well. And even if you go back like 30 odd years, you've got Run DMC mixing it up with Aerosmith. And I just find it fascinating that when you mix the cultures together, it just produces an explosion that people just resonate with, and it's just amazing. So I find that quite fascinating, to be honest with you. Really do. Do you, so I've said that, do you think that it represents a roadmap that others should follow? Do you think that people will follow Bob Vylan down the path of creating a style of music that represents where you are?
I think it's already, I think it's happening. I think it's happening, and I think it's been happening. I feel that maybe it hasn't gotten the attention that maybe you know, some, like maybe our music has recently, but I do feel like it's been, like, Slow Tie is a great example, where he's mixing genres, and it's very punk in a sense, and it's very grime in a sense, and it's dancey and electronic in a sense. It's like, it's very mixed, and I think that has been happening. I mean, if you look at like a band like Zeal and Ada, they're just like, you know, mixing kind of old like Negro spirituals with metal music, and you know, so I feel like it has been happening,
but it's not getting
it's not necessarily getting the attention that you know, that other kind of more straightforward.
We need to do more digging, don't we?
But then that's kind of like, you know, that you wouldn't be the only party guilty of that, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Because it's easier to find and place and categorize, which makes people feel safe, categorizing things, putting them into boxes, because you know what you're dealing with. But it's easier to find those music, those genres, those artists of like, this is straightforward, this is what it is. It's kind of maybe doing something a little bit different or has a little different spin on it. But when it comes to like a style of music like ours, when you put it on, and one track is again like straightforward punk, and then the next track has no guitars in and is all produced on a computer and is, you know, it sounds like a grime track or a dance kind of song.
I see it out the other end as well, not just between rock and grime and punk and grime or whatever, but there's a guy called Proc Fiscal who's doing sort of grime really stripped back, and it almost feels like Aphex Twin or Tekka Square Pusher, that kind of electronic, not dance music, but a kind of crossover. So it kind of coming out the back of grime the other way into this amazing sort of electronica. So I find that totally fascinating. And like I say, and I'm repeating myself, but I find it totally fascinating, whether it's mixed with, you know, harsh punk or the other side, electronica, just those clashing of different styles, totally fascinating. And just, they produce the most explosive and the most amazing tracks for me. So
for sure. And I think like Aphex Twin is a great example of that. Obviously that's very kind of like, you know, glitchy electronic, and it's very experimental, but like it's been happening, and I think it's been continuing to happen. But you know, for every one Aphex Twin there is 100, you know, I don't want to say
Radioheads or Coldplay or
break down this is rock music.
But you know what, Bobby, that's 98% of all the music that gets played on the radio or in the ether is that straight down the middle. What you're doing is unique, and actually, you know, that's where cultures start, don't they? You know, that's where ska started, punk started, you know, where mod started. It started from a little seed, an idea, and then boom. So
and I hope to see more of it being you know, being publicized and being you know, given a platform, because it's really it keeps things moving, you know.
England needs you, right? You are the voice of a generation. Have you got any political ambitions? Because what you're saying in those songs, the way you articulate, you know, what other people may be thinking, or, you know, against this huge wave, here's Bobby Vylan telling the country, we live here, we were born here, we have a right to be here. You know, you're the voice of a generation. Have you got like any political ambitions? Because kind of, maybe not now, but you should. Do you know what I mean? Because you can turn a generation of, you know.
Who knows? You know, I've never rule anything out, but I mean, I don't know that much change can be made on a governmental.
Yeah, but it starts small. I was watching. I don't know what you think about him. I was watching Diversity's Ashley Banjo on the TV, and he was doing the what was it, the X Factor, and I thought, and he did that routine, that BLM routine, and it was quite staggering actually. I watched it, you know, almost with a tear in my eye, and I thought, Ashley, you are the voice of a generation too. You should run to be Prime Minister of this country. You know, it's people like you that this country needs, you know.
Yeah, I mean, but I think, you know, I think there are a lot of people more qualified than me.
Okay.
That, right? Like,
I think that's qualified.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's maybe, you know, when you start to look at they're the leaders in charge, it does seem as though anybody could do the job, right? But then that's what I'm saying, is that like, I think these, you know, these figureheads, for example, right? I don't think they're necessarily able, even if Boris wanted to do all the good in the world, I don't necessarily know that he would be able to. He's certainly able to commit some atrocities and cause some ills, but I don't know if he wanted to really, you know, make a real impact on climate change, for example. You know, that he would be able to, you know.
I think Boris does what's good for Boris, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I don't think there's anything else going on.
Yeah, Boris does what's good for himself and his friends, I think, you know.
But it's people like you that can tilt, that can start to tilt that balance of thought, of action, of movement. You know, it's people like you that it's got to start somewhere, hasn't it? You know,
Well,
that
and
message is so powerful.
Again, I kind of feel like it has started when you look at when you look at youth cultures now, they're far more concerned with environmental change, for example, than the previous generations, because they're just more clued onto it, and they just have the resources at their fingertips. They can educate themselves on it so easily. And even you see like platforms like TikTok, for example, that are like, you know, I'm not on, but to the best of my knowledge, at everything I've seen, there's a lot of people just dancing to songs and stuff.
That's right, yeah.
But then they're also using it so creatively in an effort to educate their followers and their viewers on, again, like environmental change, voting, vote, the act of voting, and how to vote, where to vote, and like police brutality. Like, they're using it in all of these extremely clever ways, and I think that, again, like, there is a movement happening at the moment with younger generations in particular, because they're the ones obviously that pick up that they pick up that fight that previous generations have you know left.
Yes. There's almost like a laziness of the past where people would just not get involved because it's safer not to get involved, in the way that it's safer to listen to Coldplay and all of that slurry. You know, people don't generally want to get involved and do anything. And I think this generation, above any other, have had the opportunity to make changes, to actually start the revolution, because they've had the tools to do it. Yeah,
I mean, when you look at like the protests around the world, like subsequent protests to George Floyd's murder in America, like the way that it was able to, because we've had worldwide protests before, and we've had, you know, solidarity in England for an issue that has happened in America.
Absolutely, that's quite unique. That's right. Amazing, isn't it?
But seeing it on this level, is incredible, right? Like, seeing it on this level is just is incredible, because it's happening all across the United States, and it's happening across the United Kingdom. It's happening in different European countries. So it's, you know, and I think what we're seeing now is not just an abuse of one state's power in that, like, American police are killing and beating black people, but now you, like in France, for example, what we've seen recently, and this law that now you can't, or they want to restrict you from filming police, because those police in France are fucking people up as well, and they're fucking up black people, right? Like, there was a video recently of the producer, his name slips my mind, but he was beaten in his studio, and it's a horrendous fucking video. Do you know what I mean? And we know that it happens here. Do you know what I mean? We've seen videos of it happening here. It's not. I think it's people are realizing that, oh, it's not contained. It's an abuse of power up here somewhere, right? It's not down on ground level. It's an abuse of power up here that then trickles down. Yeah, but the whole thing, technology is amplifying that movement, which is so fresh and so great to see. It's everywhere, isn't it? Yeah, for sure. Because now you can see someone's first-hand account of it, someone videoing this thing happening, and you don't have to wait until 6 o'clock or 9 o'clock to watch the news. That's right. It's everywhere you look. Right? Yeah. Absolutely. I've got a question from Wayne, because we've been talking politics and everything else, and clashing of cultures and everything else. Now, here's a very, very simple question for you, Bobby. Wayne asks, would you do a collaboration with Bob Dylan? In a flash. Let's get it out there. Let's get it out there. I would, I like, nothing would make, I don't think there is, now that Prince is dead, you know, has died, I think that Bob Dylan would be like, that's like the, you know, the collaboration that no one can really get a Bob Dylan collaboration, you know, but. It'd be great though, wouldn't it? Maybe Paul McCartney, I don't know, I don't know.
You did a Dr. Martin advert, and you've got a very strong sense of style. Have you got any sort of ambitions to do any more sort of collaborations with fashion labels or anything like that?
Yeah, I think when it comes to those sort of things like partnerships and collaborations with brands, it's always like making sure that it's the right brand, and,
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
it's like it's something that I have in my wardrobe at the moment, do you know what I mean, or I've been thinking about. So like Doc Martens is obviously, you know,
everybody wears,
yeah, like, you know, everybody's really wears Doc Martens, and then I really like that they now have the vegan range, which, you know, is what I
are you vegan yourself, like John?
Yeah. And so so like, you know, I love that. So for me, you know, an owner of some docs already, when there came the possibility of collaboration and partnership with them, it was like, yeah, it makes sense, because it's not like, you know, I don't know, I won't say a company, but like some company, like, oh fuck it, because I'm never going to do it, but like like an energy
Burberry
drink, for example. I don't drink energy drinks, do you know what I mean? So like, when it comes to that, if it was like, oh, we're going to pay you this, it's, well, but that's never in my fridge, right? So like, I'm not going to do that.
You wouldn't just follow the ante then?
Yeah, no, certainly not. So like, yeah, but definitely would like to do more of those sort of things, and I'm sure, you know, we will in the future and in due time. But it's always just kind of making sure that everything is right, because I don't like it to just be kind of like
cynical.
Yeah,
it is, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
So you've been locked down now. I mean, you've just gone into another I'm assuming you're in London, are you?
Yeah.
So you've just been tier 3. Yeah. So that's an awful lot of lockdown that we've had to go through this year. And you did your album back in sort of February, March. Have you been like dedicating yourself to studio time and writing new stuff? What's coming up, Bobby?
So we have some bits and pieces coming up. It's all looking towards 2021 now. We've got some great festivals that are booked in. Some of them have been announced, some of them have not been announced yet. Of course, it's fingers crossed that we can play them. But yeah, we have, you know, we've been working on new bits, and it's exciting. Don't want to say too much, but you know, we've been working on some things that I think are going to take people by. I mean, it's hard to say, because I guess like we live here when that came out, and there's this black guy with locks in a Crass t-shirt. It kind of took people by surprise. So I don't know how much more surprised people can get with us, but I think there are definitely some things on you know, that we've been working on that are going to take people by surprise, because you know, let's just say there won't be a We Live Here Part 2. It would be expansion on it. It will be a growth on that, right? It's like it's always forward movement. I think that's always kind of how we're trying to look at things, of like, not how can we recreate this moment, but how can we push this moment,
take the next step. I get it.
And how can we speak on, I think We Live Here as an album was very encapsulates 2020 quite, you know, to kind of quickly.
It couldn't do it any better, could it, really, if you think about it?
If we dropped it in 2019, it wouldn't speak the same. And if we drop it in 2021, it wouldn't speak the same. So, you know, I think for it to kind of be appreciated in this year, it makes so much sense. And I think the next thing that comes, you know, when it comes, I think it will speak to that time as well, you know. So
What about collaborations, Bobby? You did collaboration with Bobby Bentham, Strange Bones. Was that a collaboration or a remix? Did you actually collaborate together?
We collaborated. So like we had we met at a party, and
oh, really?
And we're just you know, talking and stuff, and I was and we were both familiar with each other's music, and then I think we become more familiar afterwards of the kind of like just kind of talking and seeing how, you know, I mean, that each other's kind of aura and stuff.
He's a great guy, Bobby. I interviewed him a couple of years ago up in St Anne's in his studio. Like this, we did a video recording in the studio whilst they were doing their stuff, and I love Strange Bones. You know, they've got that sort of power. They've infused it with a sort of Prodigy-esque sort of electronic element as well. You know, they've moved away from the punk element more into a dance element. And that track that you did, just like, again, it's a marriage made in heaven, isn't it?
Yeah.
Between you two
like,
guys.
you know, their energy is really like, I think it works well. Like our energies together, it kind of allows us to bounce off each other. Do you know what I mean? And so that song was great. It came about after a little while. We were working on it, and the original production to it changed so drastically to what is out now. But I love it, and I think it sounds great. You know, but collaboration is something that we kind of looking more into, because it's not something that, I mean, in all aspects, we're quite self-contained. Do you know what I mean? And because we've been that way, kind of like this hardcore DIY kind of, we do all the merch designs, we do all the shipping of the merch, we do, you know what I mean, the production and everything, the album cover, we make that. Do you know what I mean? So I think collaboration has been something that's like kind of been just forgotten about because of that. But now, now the possibility of doing more collaborations with some artists that, like, you know, we actually enjoy, because again, it's like working with brands. I want to make music with people that I'm like, yeah, I listen to your music. Like, I have your record.
That means something to you. So it's not, again, it's not just a cynical collaboration. You collaborate with Strange Bones because you like their music. You like.
Yeah, it's exactly. It's not like a self-serving opportunity. It's like, you know, this thing of like, well, let's make music because
so you don't see like Rihanna getting on the phone and suggesting like a collaboration or anything.
There's some Rihanna songs. There's some Rihanna songs that I hard with, you know. Like there's some. Like, I mean, I'm quite, I guess, in that sense of collaboration, I'm maybe lucky because the music that we make is quite varied in its sound, and I'm a fan of, I have like a fairly eclectic, I think, anyway.
If Madonna picked up the phone, you might even possibly.
Yeah, for sure. Like, you know,
Can you imagine? You just go, take off like a rocket.
Like Madonna, she's still killing it. You know what I mean? And she showed out for the protests as well earlier.
She did.
Year,
yeah, absolutely.
So you know, but who knows? You know, who knows what collaboration.
Cool. Okay, that's brilliant, Bobby. Thanks so much for that. I always ask people that I interview, have they got any strange and weird hobbies that we don't know about? So it's just a way of wrapping it up. And I've had anything from extreme frisbee to no, I just like going in the studio. So have you got any like weird hobbies that nobody knows anything about?
I don't know. I don't have any weird hobbies. Obviously, I like skateboarding. I think I might go and skateboard today.
Yeah.
I don't know. The ground is still a little wet here, but we'll see. Yeah. So I like skateboarding very much. Bouldering, like rock climbing as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you do that indoor stuff where they've got those big towers?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, indoors. Been enjoying that as well. And Lego. Yeah.
Lego.
Yeah, Lego is maybe the one that it would take people by. You know.
Are you an extreme Lego builder then, Bobby?
Yeah, like I have there's a section of the like living room that is completely Legoed out. Kind of.
What's the biggest Lego thing you've built?
The biggest one. I haven't done it like. So I haven't done any huge ones, but I think maybe like the Batwing, that is probably, that's one of the biggest ones that I've got, the Batman Batwing. But I have plans to buy the Millennium Falcon.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Brilliant. They're so expensive though, aren't they, these Lego sets?
They're very expensive, but it's like, it's like something that I've been looking at for the past 5 years or so. And
they're the biggest tyre manufacturer in the world, don't you?
I did not know that.
They produce more tyres than anybody else. Forget Pirelli and Michelin. Lego.
Yeah. I guess that makes sense.
Okay. That is absolutely brilliant, Bobby. Thank you so much for being interviewed today. I've really enjoyed it. I hope you have too. It's Nigel from Louder Than War. I really appreciate you spending time with me today. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're so excited about you topping all of the charts and then having the opportunity to talk to you. We tried it last week, because we interviewed Holly Ross from The Lovely Eggs, and we
Right.
interviewed Ed Sheeran as well. Wayne was asking me, have you heard Ed Sheeran?
Of course, I've heard Ed Sheeran. I've
No, not Ed, Dead.
Oh, I thought you said Ed Sheeran.
No, Dead Sheeran.
Dead Sheeran. No, I haven't heard Dead Sheeran.
He's like a middle-aged white rapper from Bristol who talks about just everyday things, you know. Have a listen, Dead Sheeran. Wayne interviewed him last week, and he said, would you like me to call you Dead or Paul? Because he named Paul. It was one of the funniest openings to an interview I've ever heard. It's just brilliant. Yeah, Dead Sheeran. Have a listen. Look, that's been absolutely fantastic, Bobby. I've so enjoyed that. That's great.
Thank you. And, you know, thanks to Louder Than War for the continued support, you know. And you guys were very, the team was very, very proactive in jumping, you know, on when We Live Here was out, the single, the video. And, you know, it's been great to have you guys have the whole kind of like, you know, the staff on side, because, you know, it's like finding press and these sort of things is something that obviously we found and still continue to find quite challenging because of the topics that we explore and stuff. So, you know, it's great having you know, Louder Than War.
We're like this big team of rodents who are scurrying around trying to find new stuff, you know. And I get 100 emails a day. And, you know, I do actually now filter through them all because I have to do the radio show. And I do find some real nuggets there. And that's what Louder Than War's all about. So it's cool, and we'll continue to help, of course. And
appreciate it.
Nice one. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Take care.
You take care. Thank you.